Hi everyone, thanks for joining the session today. So as Katie mentioned there, today I'll be going through the leads, opportunities, and also looking at some dashboard cards and reports that tie into the leads and opportunities. So I'll start off with talking about the leads first and then come to the opportunities. And with the leads, if you're wondering where to find the leads, if you go to your menu and you see leads in your menu, it will look just like any other entity, like the candidates or the contacts. The opportunities is the same as well. You'll see them here in the menu. Sometimes, and one thing just to flag is sometimes some people that I work with have renamed these to different things. So what I would advise is if you're looking and you don't see leads and opportunities, that to look for these icons, these purple icons, because that will be your leads and opportunities. They may just be renamed. So starting with the leads, if you're wondering what leads are for, what they're used for, typically leads are used for pre-people records. So perhaps you've got a candidate or a contact record, but maybe you've met someone at a networking event, or maybe you've had an email through from someone. And at this point, you don't have very much information about the person themselves. You don't have certain data that you keep on your candidates and your contacts. So instead of putting these records onto your candidate on contact list with, missing information, or perhaps something that's required on your contact, like email address just being put sort of NA or something that isn't correct. Rather than that happening, what you have is you have your leads where you can put in your records where you don't have, very much information, and you'll follow up with them later. So you can add your lead records like you would, a candidate or a contact. And you'll notice on my screen here that on the add lead page, if I scroll down, the only field that is required here is the status. Now, company to company, you might decide that you do want other fields required, but actually on a lead, the only thing that you need to have required is that status field. So theoretically, we could save this now with no other information, and you'll know from adding candidates or contacts that you do really need more information than just their status. I'm just going to call this one Jade, for the purposes of our test today. But like I said, with this, you can put in barely any information. So if I save this here, we'll have a new lead record, exactly like, your candidates and your contacts, but with very minimal information. The good thing with this is it means if you add any notes to the system, or if you do have an email address and you're emailing back and forward, these will track just like any other record, just like a candidate, just like a contact. And it just means that rather than having these emails or the information about this particular person off of Bullhorn, you've got it in your Bullhorn database, but it's not diluting your candidate or your contact list with, information that may be incorrect, just to be able to save that record. So another useful way of looking at leads is it's a good way of segregating your data between people you're currently doing business with, your contacts, and people you want to do business with in the future. And that would be someone that potentially would be on as your lead. One other thing that you can do with a lead record is when you actually come to, say, for example, with Jade here, we're emailing, we find out actually there's someone who should be a contact on our system. What you can do is if we click convert, we have the option to either convert to a contact or to convert into a candidate. And you can either associate, if it's a contact, you can either associate them to a new client or an existing one, which you would put into this. So if I type in test, we can associate them to Test Bullhorn Company if they are under a company you already have, or you can associate them to a new contact. You can also, with a lead, you can create an opportunity, which I'll come on to in a moment. But you can, from here, you can either convert them into a candidate or a contact record. And if I hit next, just to show you the next page, you have the add client page, And then if we saved this, we would then be added, we would be taken to the add contact page. So just like adding a client normally, adding a contact normally, that's what happens when you convert your leads into either a contact or a candidate record. So I mentioned there as well about converting or creating a opportunity from a lead. So an opportunity, as I mentioned before, it can be found on your menu, just like your leads. And you have the list view just like any other record. And with an opportunity, the best way to think of these are pre-job or pre-vacancy records. So there's a few different use cases for when you would use an opportunity. One might be like with the leads, it's a pre-job record, so it's in the pipeline. It's not official yet that you'll definitely be working on it. For example, the contact might say, you might have been speaking to a contact and you might be aware that they're going to have several openings next quarter. But as you don't have all the details yet, and it's not confirmed that those jobs are definitely official, it's good to put them onto your system so that everything's clear and everything's there for your consultants and everyone to see, but it's not using up your job list and you're not putting jobs on that actually you don't end up working on. So that's one way to use the opportunities. Another way of using the opportunities is bidding on certain projects. So it may be that you might work in healthcare or you might work in construction. And with some of the projects that come from those industries, it might be that there's a construction project coming up, and from that project, there's going to be multiple jobs. So what a lot of people do is they have an opportunity and then convert that opportunity into multiple jobs that are relevant for those different construction jobs within that project. And then the final use case that some people use opportunities for is consulting or other business outside of recruiting. So again, rather than having all that information external to Bullhorn, to ensure that everyone has visibility on everything that you need them to, what some people do is they use opportunities to actually put that information as a record, as an opportunity onto your system. So again, with an opportunity, you can add these like you would a lead. So if I just go to opportunity here, and you'll notice that here we've got some different options at the top. So this is very similar to if you're adding a vacancy record or if you're adding a placement record, where you have different employment types and you have the ability to have different fields show up for your different employment types. So with your opportunities, you can have that as well. And I'll come back to this in more detail in a moment. But what you can do is you can have different options here, depending on the type of opportunity that you have. So I'll just select contract for now. Again, you'll notice, like with the leads, there are well, in this case, there is only one required field. And again, an opportunity like a lead, you can have very minimal required fields. You might want to have more depending on how your company works. But if you only wanted to have the company field required, that's something that you can have. So again, you don't have to know all the details that you would likely want to know when you're creating a vacancy record. So I'm just going to type in test here just to add this, and I'll put Jade test here. So on your opportunity record, before I actually save this, there's a field that I want to speak about on this page. So we have this field here, which is the deal value. It may be when you add your opportunity that you don't see the deal value in the exact position that mine is showing up, but it's a field that you can have kind of showing on your opportunity records. So with this field, this is how much your company will make if you win the deal, if you win this opportunity. So it's important to add this information as soon as you know it, because it's useful to be able to see that information. It also ties into another couple of fields, which I'll be speaking about in a moment. So it's a really useful field to have showing on your opportunities and also to fill in. It's one that you may want to consider making required, depending on how you work with your opportunities. But I'm just going to save this one now. So with your opportunities, there's a couple of things that it does, and it figures out from that deal value, working alongside your statuses on your opportunities. So you'll notice at the top here, we've got these workflow icons, which I'm sure many of you will be aware of from your candidate records or your job records, and you have your different workflow steps for those particular records. With an opportunity, these workflow steps actually tie into your statuses, except for the two at the end, which is convert, which I'll show you in a moment how to convert this record, and also closed. So the four before then are actually statuses to do with the opportunity. And these statuses can be updated in your field mappings. So anyone here that's on this call that is an admin user, but you can access the field mappings from your menu, admin, and you'll get to the section field maps. In here, what you can do is you can actually update your statuses, and you can change what statuses that you have in here. Now, what I would recommend is if any of you do decide to update your statuses, which is absolutely fine, the thing that you will also need to do is in your system settings, look for the system setting that is opportunity workflow steps. And in here, you'll notice you have all your workflow steps, which are to do with statuses. Then we have our converted and closed. So it's important to make sure that your workflow steps mirror what's showing in your statuses, and these are the same options. So you'll notice we've got open, qualifying, negotiating, and signing here, and that's exactly the same. And what's important as well is that they're in the same order here as well. This ties into a field that I'll go through in a moment. So these tie into your workflow steps here. Now, one thing that you might notice is on the record here, this current record, its current status is open. And you'll notice that when I hover over this, there's a couple of bits of information which is to do with weighted value, total value. Now, one thing that I am going to do quickly is I'm just going to add a number to this deal value just to be able to show you with a bit more information. So here we go, just saving that there. Now, if we hover over, you'll be able to see weighted value, total value, win probability. Now, with the opportunities, there is a particular system setting, which is this one here, this opportunity status probability to close. Now, with this particular field, what you can do is you can define each status that is listed in your field mappings to have a corresponding percentage, which is to do with the probability when the opportunity is in that status that it will be likely to close and to have been won. So these particular options here link to what your statuses are, and they mirror these. So in here, what you would put is you would put your percentage values. So 10%, it's 10% that when you actually have an opportunity with the status open, that it's 10% likely probability that it's going to close and be won. Then as it moves to qualifying, that goes up to 25%, 50% for negotiating, 75% probability of closing and winning that opportunity when it's at the signing stage. So as it moves through those statuses. These opportunity status probabilities, they are things that you can put your own options in here, your own percentages, as long as you format it in this way with a decimal point and the number, and make sure that the list corresponds to the same. So open is the first one, qualifying is the second, and so on. And so that's the way to format this particular system setting. I know it's quite a bit of information, so just one thing to mention here is we will be sending out relevant documentation, because I'm aware that there's quite a few different system settings and things around the opportunities, especially compared to the leads. But where this ties into is when you actually then start changing the statuses of your opportunities. So let's just say we've now moved this opportunity to the status qualifying. As I've changed that status, and I'll just quickly refresh this opportunity, you'll notice now that the open is green still, but qualifying is also lit up, and that's the current status. Now you'll notice that the win probability is showing as 25%. The total value, which I put in, is £10,000, and the weighted value, it's figured that out from the status and the percentage, that's £2,500. So as we go along, if you hover over the workflow icons, these will show you the weighted deal value as the opportunity moves through each status or each workflow step, and what the probability of it closing is, and that increases as we go through those steps as we go up. So then the last thing to show you with this opportunity is converting and closing. So you can convert your opportunities to a job or a vacancy record. And to do that, you can just click on that convert job button at the top here, and it will take you to your add job page, and it will pull through some information that you'll notice that the current company has pulled through there. And if I had put a contact on, that would pull through as well. And then you can add your job just like you would a normal job record. As well as adding it that way, you can also click on the workflow icon if it hasn't already been converted, which also takes you to the add job page, as you'll notice there. The other thing as well that you can do with your opportunities is select that it's being closed. Now here, what you can do is you can specify whether you've won this opportunity, and if so, the reason why, or if you lost the opportunity, and again, the reason why from here. So these are as well options that you can update and you can change. So if you have a win or not or lost options that aren't right for your company, if you contact support, they'll be able to help you to change those options there. And I'll put that this one was one and we placed it, and I'll just update this. So now you'll notice that this has been closed and won. So with the opportunities, I mentioned before that there's a couple of reports and dashboard cards to do with these. So one of those, or some of those dashboard cards, if we go to look at the dashboards first, you'll notice that when you go to the dashboards and add card, there's a lot of cards to do with leads and also opportunities, and you can see these here. One thing to mention, if you go to your dashboards and you're not seeing any or many cards to do with leads and opportunities, again, reach out to support and they can enable those for you. But you've got quite a few different options in here. Because of that, I'll just take you through one opportunity card and one lead card. But we've got some documentation that goes through what each card kind of relates to. But these two are particularly useful cards, I personally think. So with the leads, we've got this one here, which is converted leads. So with this particular card, what this will show is this will show you your leads that have been your last 10 leads, your 10 most recent leads that have been converted into contact records. So this will show the lead name, it will show who converted it, and it will show how long ago that they were converted. And what you can do is you can, on the record name, you can actually click through to the records. So we can click through to Christina Bullhorn here, and you can look at the record, but also if we go to activity, any linked contacts, or as you can see here, an opportunity as well, can be found in the activity section of the lead. So that card is really useful for seeing your recently converted leads that have been converted into contacts. Then with the opportunities, a card that I think is really useful is this one, which is opportunities by reasons closed. Now this card will show you all your opportunities that have been closed, and it will divide them by the reason that they were closed. And you'll notice here, as well as showing us the reason closed, it shows the amount that we have. it shows the deal value and also that weighted deal value, which I was talking about before with that system setting. So what you can do is, if you wanted to see, okay, all the one dash placed, there's 36. If we click on that, you can actually see those opportunities filtered in your opportunity list view. One thing as just an aside, you might notice that there's a couple of duplications here. This is a test system, so that's one thing that you won't have. These will show your reasons that the opportunities have been closed, so it might look slightly different. But that's really useful to see that reason why, and especially when it comes to seeing, okay, why have these opportunities been lost, or why have they been won? You can see that at a really quick and easy glance. Then, as well as the dashboard cards, there's a couple of standard reports which you'll find when you go to menu, tools and reporting. And there's two standard reports. There's the opportunity pipeline report and the lead pipeline report. And these come from your opportunities and your leads. So with the opportunity pipeline report, this will show you your opportunities over the period of time that we're looking at, and their total deal value as well as their weighted deal value. So say, for example, if we take a look at London and just scroll down or drill down, it will tell you what stage those opportunities are on. It will tell you the owner, and we can drill all the way down to actually be able to open the opportunity records or the linked client and contact records, and it shows us some of the information around the opportunity and to do with the deal and the weighted deal value. Then we have the lead pipeline report. Now this one, what this will show, and again, you'll notice how I've drilled down and you can actually see the lead record and that information here. But what you can see are, again, leads that have been added over the period of time that we're running the report by, but the number of leads that have been added, how long that lead is. So this particular one is 61 to 90 days old. And you'll notice here that it has total opportunity deal value and weighted deal value. And that's if an opportunity has been created from the lead that we're looking at. Any associated opportunities, their deal and weighted deal value will actually show in this report, as well as that opportunity pipeline as well. So I know that I've given a lot of information here, and as I mentioned, there is some documentation that we'll be sending out about this, but also that is available if you click in the help section and search sort of leads, leads, opportunities, dashboard cards, things like that. These documentations will come up, but I think there probably are some questions, so I'll throw it back to Katie.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, there are a couple have come in. The first is, why wouldn't I just use contacts instead of leads?
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that people have asked me a few times in the past when I've shown them leads before. And really this comes down to, as I touched on right at the start, is making sure that your contact list is sort of a healthy list. It's not being diluted by either a lack of data if the fields aren't required, that have just been left blank, or incorrect data, where sometimes I've seen people, I mentioned before, adding like NA or dash to the email field because it's required just to be able to save it. The thing with doing that is when you actually come to searching your contact list, that can kind of dilute it down and make it hard to find really good contacts when you're looking for them. So leads is a good place to put these records in when you don't have that information, and when you do, you can then quickly convert them and put in any other relevant information.
Great, thank you. All right, another one that has come in is, I have the enterprise edition of Bullhorn, but no leads or opportunities. How do I get them?
Yeah, so if you don't have leads or opportunities showing in your menu, the best thing to do would be to contact support, and they would be able to enable that for you and make sure it's all set up and everything.
Great. Can we use leads without using opportunities?
Yes, so with leads and opportunities, they're not linked together. You can, as I mentioned before, you can create an opportunity from a lead when you're on that page that I was showing before, the pop-up with converting to a contact. So you can create an opportunity from a lead, but they're not actually sort of tied together in any way. And there's plenty of people that I've worked with who just use the opportunities or just use the leads, depending on their requirements.
Great. Okay. Here we go. We have a couple coming in now. With opportunities, is it also possible to post a vacancy on job boards if it's not converted job yet?
So with if you have a opportunity, you will need to convert it to a job for it to go up into your jobs boards. The sort of the connection between your jobs boards and Bullhorn comes from the job records. Also, what we generally recommend is if you're at that stage where you're starting to shortlist people for a role, even if it's sort of even if it's not so much a shortlist, but maybe more of a long list, and it's you're not sort of narrowing it down, but you're still sort of linking people for a role. At that stage, you would be wanting to convert the opportunity into a job record at that stage.
Great. Another one is, which are the most important dashboard cards?
Yeah, so with the dashboard cards, these really do depend from sort of company to company, especially in my experience of working with different people. So what I would recommend, and I know I mentioned before about the documentation, but if you look in there and search dashboards, it comes up with a bit of documentation which then has a list of all our different dashboard cards. I would recommend taking a look through there. Some of them as well, like say for example opportunities by owner. If you add that one is fairly sort of clear what it's to do with. It's the amount of opportunities that a particular internal user is the owner of. So there's some that by clicking around, I'm sure will make sense. There's others that are a little bit more complicated, so that documentation sort of clears it up, and that's the best way to find which would work best for yourselves.
Great. I think we have time for just about one more. Do I have to have a company entered first prior to creating an opportunity?
So your opportunity, it can, so here is required. I think I have seen it before, so I'm thinking back to whether it can be added without a company, because I think I have seen people that I've worked with in the past actually not put a company record in there, and it's sort of associated company, or if it's a new company. I'm not sure. It might be something, sorry, with this particular question, I don't want to say incorrectly. So I know with a lot of our questions, we send the answers through. So if I can just confirm, just because I want to make sure, and then we can send that answer through, if that's okay to the person who asked that.
Great. Well, thank you, Jay. That's all we have time for today. For those of you who we did not get to yet, we will follow with you individually. So as a reminder, we will be sharing the webinar recording with all attendees in the next 24 hours, and we'll follow up via email the next week with any of those questions that we did not able to answer today. For additional training resources, please don't forget to log into the Learning Hub throughout the customer community at help.bullhorn.com. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.